Warning. This podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis and trans women. If you are genderqueer, gender fluid, figuring it out, anything in between, and feel like this conversation is also important for you, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Sweet romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Welcome to another monthly reading wrap-up episode with me, Jace, and Sephi. Well, she's not here right now, but she will be when I ruin all the books for her. And that's what I wanted to warn you about. I'm about to ruin all of these books for Sephi and you too. So if you want to take a look at the show notes first, in case there's a book you don't want ruined, go ahead and do that. You can find all show notes at jacereadsromance.com/podcast. That's jacereadsromance.com/podcast. And if you don't mind having things spoiled for you, keep on keeping on because we're about to have some fun. Hi, y'all. This is Jace, she, they, and you found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. I can't believe it's March, but I'm so excited. I feel like each month of 2025, I've been like, can it be over all right? Can we just be done with it? I don't want to be here anymore. And February, while all the stuff that was happening in January, for those of you watching this, I'm just going to point to my little dumpster fire punchkin whenever I need to. But for that, yeah, I just was in a weird, funky headspace. I think I made it through January and got to February and was like, no, my brain is done. And I had a weird reading month. It was really hard for me to read. There was a week where I read 3 books, and that's it. And that's so unusual and one of them was a novella. It wasn't even like, I didn't even read one of them. I finished one book, I read a novella, and I finished an audiobook that I'd started before. And it was just like mentally couldn't. So let's go with weirdness. It's been weird, y'all. But coming in hot with my stats, I am going to do I'm going to add another stat to this, but I read 20 books in the month of February. And I know I just said reading slump, so many novellas, so many novellas and things. And we'll get there. We'll talk about it. But they ended up being 20 books. In terms of my diversity stats, I had 8 books written by people of color, so I hit my 40% goal, and 4 books contained queer stories, 20%. So I literally hit it on the money. And I had to be really intentional about that when it came to mid-month. And I ended up in this reading slump because I had all these plans and all these things, and I just wasn't reading. And I'd read some other books earlier in the month that didn't fit into those 2 categories, which is fine. I don't mind reading these books. They're great books. I've loved them. But when I was in the midst of this reading slump, I suddenly had to get even more intentional with what I was choosing. What I did not hit was my physical book goal. I only read 5 physical books. I'm aiming for 8 to 10 in a month so that I can hit my goal of 100 books, physical books in the year 2025. So that was a little bit disappointing, but just trying to be really kind to myself as I was going through this, that it's okay. The important thing is that I'm reading. The important thing is to figure this out as I go along. And this is going to backtrack a little bit. I haven't done the numbers for February, so this just might be a stat that's always delayed 1 month in these reading wrap-ups. I don't know, but I purchased books, and I'm not going to tell you how many books I purchased because you can go to my YouTube and find that January book haul, which I recorded accidentally in slow motion and without sound. And I've been so mad about it that I haven't re-recorded it. So even though it's now March, like the January haul isn't up. And so again, this might just be really delayed. Don't worry about it. But Adib Karam now that I moved everything to Labib in terms of my keeping track of my library, I haven't been tracking percentages on the books that I'm buying, just the books that I'm reading, and some books that I'm reading they're from all over the place. But Adib Karam at Love Y'all said to keep track of what you're purchasing and where you're spending your dollars and what are you supporting monetarily. And so I'm going to keep track of what I'm purchasing and who it's going to. And my aim is, again, to kind of fit those diversity goals of 40% authors of color and 20% queer stories that I'm bringing into my physical library. And I'm not going to tell you the stats because you can go to my YouTube and being mysterious, just mysterious. And I don't want to make anyone feel bad. Like I'm contributing significantly financially to my physical library, and y'all don't have to. And there's no need, there's no judgment, there's no anything about that. But in the month of January, I had 52.9% of my books were authors of color, and 20.6 books were queer stories. So off to a great start. I haven't done the math for February, and February is going to be a weird one just because I also got a bunch of these special editions and things that I had ordered months ago. They arrived, and I'm counting now as when they're in my physical library and not the pre-orders that I've done. So come back next month for that. All right, 20 books. Let's do it. The first book I read was Winter by Marissa Meyer. It is the final book in the Lunar Chronicles, and it is YA. It's technically MF, but it's 4 different couples who are getting their happily ever afters in this one book. So it's over 800 pages. It's so massive. It is fairy tale inspired. It's a sci-fi / magic-y, but it's really like science-y, more science than fantasy. It's an adventure tale. It is long. It's long, and it felt kind of like a Jackie Chan movie where oh, you might not win this fight. Like you're getting really beat up in the process of this fight. I don't know how that's going to go for you. But they did. They won. They defeated the person, the evil queen, and everyone was alive and scarred, even if they were scarred by the end of it. Very scarred depending on the human. So yeah, that was good. It will not make sense if you haven't read the other books. You have to read them in order. What was the one that I read before? Fairy Tale, which is the weird, it's novella in the middle of it. Fairest, thank you. You don't need to read that ever. Yeah, don't read that one. But the 4 main ones, they're a solid YA story. The next book was an arc. It's called My Big Fat Fake Marriage. This is by Charlotte Stein. I loved her book When Grumpy Met Sunshine. And so it's an MF book. It comes out on the 11th of March. So it comes out real soon. It is a slow burn, fake marriage, forced proximity, one bed, virgin hero, cinnamon roll golden retriever, plus sized. Everyone is plus sized. And I will say that this couple did not hit as hard for me as the couple in When Grumpy Met Sunshine. Hazel and Beck, we've met Beck and Hazel in fucking When Grumpy Met Sunshine. Beck is an editor and works with the FMC from When Grumpy Met Sunshine. Hazel is her best friend, and they end up living next to each other in an apartment building. And Beck is like the cinnamon rolliest golden retriever dude ever. And just like like, you know, those, it's someone tripping and falling and dropping everything with that look on their face. Like that's him as a human all rolled in. And Hazel is trying to be a black cat. In fact, her name isn't Hazel. Like she goes by something else, but her actual name is Hazel. Like her name is Hazel, but it's so weird. Like I just didn't connect with this human. He felt so slapstick, but what ends up happening is Hazel discovers that Beck has created a fake wife. Like he has this jackass at work that is just super mean and rude, and to like get him off his back, he's like, no, I'm totally married, and has created this fake wife and is just overwhelmed by this lie. And Hazel ends up being there when this asshole like starts belittling Beck. She's like, shut up, I'm his wife. And so they end up going to this writer's retreat. I don't like, she was going as a writer and he was the one organizing it. And then they're like, oh shit, we have to pretend to be married. And so they're staying in this room with one bed. And like, but like, it's so weirdly slapstick and like, just, it didn't feel like humans. It's like, you just put a trope out there. And when Curvy Met Sunshine, they connected on like this deep level of like poor kids from this area of the UK. And in this one, it was just weird. But the spice I died. I was so iffy about this book, and I'm still kind of iffy about the book, but I don't know if I was ovulating. I don't know what happened, but like the spice just destroyed me. There's a scene where there's like a mutual masturbation scene where they're just like, I can't fucking handle how much I want you, and I'm dying, lying here in this bed, unable to touch you. And then like the first time they fuck her, oh my God, I don't even know what like, I haven't gone back to it because like I don't know if I want to go back to it and realize that I was just having a moment. But the spice just, however, it hit me real hard. Oh, book number 3 is Magic Strikes. This is the next book in the Kate Daniels series, which I am like low-key obsessed with. And like I have to stop myself from just binging the whole thing. But this is still slow burny. The burn has not been felt yet. It's PNR, it's super violent. There's a secret identity still with Kate. She and Kern are still like, you know, what's going on?
Right.
There's shifters, there's vampires, and there's tons of good lore and just a lot of creatures and magic from all over the world. I will say that I'm really loving that Ilona Andrews brings in so much diversity with the lore that they have in this. Yeah, so this one is an adventure where there's like a secret fight club. And
that's amazing.
It's a secret fight club, and someone else from the pack is like, Kate, I need your help with this secret fight club to like dismantle it, but don't tell Kern because all shifters aren't allowed to participate in the secret fight club because of the shit that went down. And we learn a little bit more about Kern. And then of course Kern finds out, and she antagonizes Kern by hiding out with Jim, who's the enforcer who's like trying to break up and like infiltrate the secret fight club. And Kern's like, tell me where you are. Tell me what's going on. And she's like, I'm with Jim and you'll never find us. He's like, you have 3, like he has 3 days. Jim has like 3 days to show up because Kern officially said he had to come back. And if he doesn't come back in 3 days, then Jim is basically declaring himself outlaw. And Kate's like, you'll never find us in the 3 days. If you find us, I will cook you dinner naked. And like throwing the gauntlet of bullshit. But the last thing in this book is Kern saying like, this is the menu I want. And you can wear panties. By the way, I've like broken into your apartment because that's a shifter thing. And I think you should wear the blue set. Like that's the way this book ends. But I went right into the next novella, and I'm following the released something. Oh, I'm following an order from her website. I'll put the order link in the show notes so that if you are following along or you're confused about like, what do I read when, I'm just telling you how I'm reading it. It's called Magic Mourns. It is a novella about two side characters, Andrea and Raphael. And it is the story of how they get together, but it fucking faded to black.
What?
I know. And this terrified me because Curran and Kate haven't gotten together. And I was like, oh my God, is this a whole series fade to black? But so like Andrea and Raphael, we've known them. Raphael's been pursuing Andrea real hard. Andrea's staying away from the shifters because she's secretly this like illegal breed of shapeshifter, and so she doesn't want to enter that. She also has a really bad history with men and especially male shapeshifters, so it takes a lot, and they end up going on this like crazy fucking adventure where they have to solve this there's like a puppy, but not a puppy, there's like a magical dog and a creature stealing bodies. So it's so fucking cool. Like again, this one's Greek mythology, like the previous one, the one that I just read is Japanese mythology. The Magic Strikes has like Hindu mythology. It's so cool. Like you never know what you're gonna get. There's like another one that has Norse mythology. It's you never know. There's Jewish mythology. Like it's amazing.
Wow.
So that was the novella, super fun, but like fucking fade to black. Okay, next was Coming Home, and this is an audio novella written by Kennedy Ryan for Audible. It's second chance, grand gesture, college. It's after college, but they knew each other in college. It takes place at this college. It is Naomi and Tornay. I don't even know if they were nicknames. So MF, and they knew each other in college, and they kind of were always a will they, won't they, the one that got away for both of them. Like, you know, someone started dating someone first, and then by the time that relationship ended, the other person was dating. And then Tornay went to this study abroad in Paris after they had like one kiss while Naomi was dating someone.
Oh.
And he ends up getting a girl over there pregnant. And so like time has gone by, and he never married baby mama. They were always just like friends who raised the child together, but his child, like they end up both, they're very successful. He's a journalist. She's an interviewer and a TV personality, and they come together for homecoming at their alma mater. She's going to interview him and like all the feelings and all the history, and like they haven't seen each other and they haven't talked, and it's great. It's like really short, sweet. There is some steam. It's Kennedy, so it's just really well done. It's also a full cast. So it's a full cast of, is it a full cast of characters? No, it might not be. I think it's actually just duet, but it's Wesley Siobhan, who is incredible. She's just incredible. And it was like short, sweet, but like a story done really well. Mm-hmm. So if you are looking for a short and sweet oral novella, this one will get you. Book number 6. Book number 6 was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Fucking love this book. People had problems with it. It's Scarlet, though the only person who calls her Scarlet is the MMC Lucas. Everybody else calls her Vanny, which is her like last name nickname, like you do in sports. It is MF. And at first, I was like, what's this? Because this book is about two people who know that they want kink in their sex life, but have never had a partner in kink, coming together and like getting to explore that for the first time with each other. And so at first I was like, what's going on? This is not kinky, or there's not X, Y, and Z. And then I don't know what, there was a moment in the book that clicked for me. I'm like, it was like a moment when I went, oh, that's what I did when I was exploring kink in college with someone else who's never explored kink in this very informal way, when you just kind of know what you like and you know what you want to try, but you aren't quite able to engage in a full scene yet, or to like lay out parameters ahead of time. You've talked about your limits, you've experienced it, but you haven't like had the opportunity to plan something because you just don't even know that that's a real thing. And I will say, for them, like, in some ways, thank God for the internet, because Lucas prints out a list of preferences and things to fill out and says, here, fill this out. She's like, can't I just look at yours? He's like, no, because I want to know what you want and not just what you're going to go off of based on my list. And he was great. There are some weird miscommunication things. It's college. There's emotions. It's very, like, it feels very college, but it's fucking spicy as shit. And Lucas is fantastic. And Scarlett's great. Next is A Turn in the Air by A.H. Cunningham. This is the author who wrote Plie, and so this is the second book in that series. It's Sal and Devon. Oh man, I loved it. So Sal and Devon, it's less formal kink than there was in Plie, where they both went to a dungeon, but Sal and Devon have their own things and they talk about it, and their nicknames for each other are Ursula and Mufasa, and they love it. It's a marriage of convenience. It's kinky. There's suspense. Sal is a black cat. There's black love. Devon has a great my wife moment. If you like a my wife. And the kink that they engage in is more primal, like fighty, physical altercation. I want you to like chase me and force me in the right way, like with my consent. Like they laid out their things.
Primal play. That's exactly what it is.
Primal play. Exactly. It's primal play. And there's like lots of different ways you can primal play. This is the way that they primal play. I loved it. Sal is also beautifully plus sized. Devon is a dancer. And so there was so much culture, and he's Jamaican, and they wrote in so much about that culture and his family and his accent. And I just love it. I have researched that A.H. Cunningham has another series that's kind of connected to this one through the third friend in this group, her sister and the polycule there. So I kind of want to branch to the side. But A.H. Cunningham is getting a trad published book under Harlequin, and I have an arc for that. So look for that in a future wrap up. I'm really excited about it. The next one was such a fucking disappointment.
Oh no.
It was, I know, it's called Her Vampire Prince. And do you know how disappointed I have to be to like say that about a vampire book? Like, how disappointed. It's by Inez Johnson.
That's pretty bad.
This is the second Inez Johnson thing that I've read. The first one was a holiday novella, and it's something called Knotty in the title, but it wasn't about knotting or bondage, and I didn't like it. You remember that one?
Yes, I do.
So I thought, no, I'll and I bought these ebooks. Like I purchased them with my own money. They're not on KU because I was like, you know what, Inez, like so much you get like recommended and so many different avenues. I want to support you. Vampires, obviously the way to go. I bought the trilogy. I have the next two books. I don't know if I'm going to read them. I don't know if I want to read them. So it's MF, it's PNR, it's Insta-Love, obviously an age gap because he's 100-year-old, multiple centuries old vampire.
Yeah.
Virgin heroine, there's suspense, and kink is, honestly, like, I'm having a really hard time because they go to a sex club and I'm pretty sure there's bondage, but my note is kink?
Oh no, oh
no. And so I feel like it just was not delivered. And with how much the FMC Hadrian is like, I used to torture people for real. I'm like, but that's not the same thing as kink. I don't really understand where we're going with this. It, like, none of it worked for me. Just none of it. It's so disappointing.
That is really disappointing.
Oh my fucking God. I also feel like Michael wanted me to like give my spice ratings for all of these books. Is that something that Michael wanted me to do? I apologize, Michael, if I haven't done it. So I'm going to now list all the books that I've said, and Michael, you can edit them how you want, or you can leave in this fuck up of mine. So Winter, it's YA, there's zero spice, on page, off page. My Big Fat Fake Marriage, I had as a 2.5 on the spice scale. Magic Strikes and Magic Mourns are both zeros because there is no spice, just a makeout scene, not spice, in Magic Strikes. And Magic Mourns, it fucking faded to black.
Faded
so
to
no
black.
Spice.
Yeah.
Faded to black. So mad. Coming Home, I had as a 1. There was one scene in this novella. Well done, but only 1.
Yeah.
Deep End, 2.5. It was a 2.5 because it never got to there was just too much plot for it to be a 3. There's too much plot for it to be a 3, even though there are quite a few scenes. A Turn in the Air, 2.5, good scenes. Her Vampire Prince was a 1. I hated everything about it. Sing Me to Sleep is book number 9. This is a YA, so no spice, fantasy duology. And I did finish the second one in this month. So I'm going to give you like high level what happens in this book. So this is a magical kingdom where there are pretty much just 3 types of creatures. There's fae, there's witches, there's humans. Fae are on top, witches are second-class citizens, and humans are basically slaves. They have no power. They are there to be the workforce. And Sorsha is a siren who is an illegal creature. Like, every other siren in the kingdom has been murdered. Part of me is like, there has to be another siren. How was she born? But, like, that's not the story. And she is, on paper, a fae without powers. She's enrolled in the military academy so that she can provide for her family and provide for her little sister, who is her whole world. And she's like top of the class in her academy as someone without powers, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
And she is asked and ends up being a guard for the prince of this kingdom named Hayes, who is who she's in love with. Also, everyone in this world is a person of color. This is written by Gabby Burton. Everyone is Black in this world, and I fucking loved it. So, like, conversations about locks and curls and moisturizing and all of it existed, and it was great. But she's an illegal creature. Also, she's an assassin on the side. She's an assassin on the side.
Of course.
Because what she knows about sirens is like she is compelled to kill. So she's like, well, might as well get my rocks off by killing people like that and get paid for it.
Yeah.
So she's an assassin. She's now a guard for the prince. He like insta loves her hard. It's so fucking cute. And this whole conspiracy around the kingdom and this like secret rebellion, and they're trying to use her and hurt Hayes, and like what is she gonna do, and how is she also handling the feelings for Hayes that are around, and has she been actually used as a weapon for the resistance in a way that she didn't know. It's so cool. All right, I went right back to a lot of Andrew's Magic Bleeds. And guess what? The burn happened in this book. The burn happened. So I think this is book like 4. But it starts off with Kate having made the dinner.
Yeah.
In her like underwear.
Mm-hmm.
And Curran doesn't show up.
I'm sorry. What?
I know. I was like, what the fuck? And like they work through it, but like he had a good reason, and like there's all sorts of like fuck ups that happen when like 2 people who are so stubborn and so hot-headed just like come against each other. But in this book, a lot more is revealed. Even more is revealed about Kate. So her family, her parentage, her lineage, which we learned in the previous book, Magic Strikes. Her aunt shows up and starts fucking up shit, something awful. And so she's like, do I save everyone and expose myself? And how can I defeat my aunt who's been alive for thousands of years and has these powers? And also she's been avoiding Curran for weeks because she's so heartbroken.
Yeah.
It's so great. And like this one has like ancient Babylonian history in it, and this is where like Jewish history comes in because the Jews write everything down. And so she says, like, I learned about my father through Jewish writings because he's been around for that long and they're the only people who wrote everything down. And Scythe and Sparrow, which is the next book that I read as an audiobook, and this was a 2.5 spice. This is the least slow burny of the books. The least slow burn. Also, this story of Fiona and Roses, it takes place over in the background of Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark. And I think my least favorite moments in this book were when they were trying to align with what had happened in the first two books. Just like the timing of it. Like, I'm like, you're trying to fit this story into like the nooks and crannies of stories we've already read. Specifically Leather and Lark, like that final, like, oh no, we have to go find Lark and what's coming. Or even it's just like the timing of it felt weird and wrong. But so Rose and Fionn, this is not slow burn, but it's morally gray, hurt and heal. There's like a little bit of a who did this to you. Rose is a hot fucking mess. Rose is like Lark and Sloane are good at killing people. Like they're good at it. They can like, Rose is terrible at killing people. Like she's awful at it. Like the reason she broke her leg is she went after this dude who was beating up his wife and kids and ended up getting her leg broken 3 places by him, like bone protruding from the skin broken. Like she's bad at it. Like there's another spoiler where she's trying to kill this dude, and she had called Sloane and was like, how many amphetamines do I need to give him to like theoretically kill him? And she does, and then he doesn't die. And so she's like, how about you race on my treadmill, and if you beat my record, I'll let you fuck me in the ass. And he's like, sure, got it, and doesn't die. And then Fionn shows up and is like, what the fuck is going on? And is like, hey dude, how about you go for a run outside? You definitely need it. And the way that the dude dies is he literally is like, I can totally hurdle this fence, trips, falls, and smashes his head onto the top of the fucking fence post. Like she just fails at killing people over and over and over again. I got abducted by aliens and now I'm trapped in a rom-com by Kimberly Lemming, book number 12. I'm just going to take a sip of my tea. She is so good. She's so good with these titles.
It's a great title.
Right? It was a 2.5 on the spice scale for me. If for no other reason, they have tails with suction on the end of it. They use really well. It is Dory, Soul, and Loke. Dory is a human, and she is abducted after getting mauled by a lion. She's a biologist, by the way, and she's wakes up in an alien spaceship, and she's like, fuck no, I'm gonna get out of here. Ends up with blue goo in her hair, which turns out to be like translating goo. So every time she kisses a creature, it becomes sentient and can communicate with her. And it happens first with a lion who licks her. I fucking love Kimberly Lemming. Fucking love her. And so then she has like this talking sentient lion friend, which is basically the sword from the Mead's Mishap series. That same kind of like side character we all needed brought into this series. And then it turns out that they're on this planet. She's been brought there to breed with the aliens whose planet accidentally got destroyed. And these like foes, they're actual scientists, but they're terrible. Scientist aliens brought them here and terraformed this planet to be like Earth because they realized that Earth women could mate with them, but they only did 3 days of research on Earth, so it's just wrong. And Dory, the biologist, is like, I can't handle the fact that there's a pink T-Rex and a giant sloth. They're not from the same time period. Why are your stegosauruses fluffy?
It's pink.
It's pink. It's so funny. She's like mad every 2 seconds about like the terrible research. Like, you have a woolly mammoth in a tropical climate. What is wrong with you? It's so funny. But then she and Sol and Loke all get like darted with mate juice, and so they become it's so
mate juice
funny. This is Immersed and Bound by Cassie Verano, and I read a Christmas novella of hers last year, realized it was book 3 in a series, and was like, oh, I should go read the first one.
Yes.
And here's why this is like not, this was, I put it as a 3.75 because there were great things about it, but like it just wasn't, this is for someone, like 3s for me are like, this is for someone, like this isn't a badly written book, this isn't racist, this isn't sexist, this isn't like bad, but it's not for me. Like 4 is like, I enjoyed this. Like 3 is like, but it was a 3 on the spice scale. So Malaya is good friends with Champion, who we meet, who's the 3rd book about, and Champion's this incredible makeup artist and photographer, and Malaya writes like erotic romance. And Champion has gotten invited to this like private island retreat party thing, and it's like, Malaya, you should come, get your rocks off. Like, doesn't matter. It's like a bunch of old dudes who are rich and gonna like pamper you and fuck you well, hopefully for a weekend. And while there, Costas sees her and is like, mine. And so they have this like crazy weekend of insta lust. They hook up. They like, it was amazing. They do a lot of like sexual exploration for Malaya. Costas is, you know, trust me, I'm going to do right by you. And then they leave and they, you know, they have the will they won't they. Here's my fucking problem. Oh, he's pierced. A lot of piercings. He's a Jacob's Ladder and a Prince Albert. So good job, sir. But here's the thing that really bothered me.
Okay.
There's so much ass play. I don't mind ass play.
Yeah.
That's fine. But no lube. Like, so many fingers going in butts without, really just Costas' fingers going in butts without lube. And the only time lube is even mentioned is when he's like, maybe we'll have anal sex. And he's like, do you want lube? And she goes, only if you do. No! And I just couldn't get past it. Oh, and like, there are just like sexual situations that I'm like, sorry, this is ick. Like, you need lube for ass play, always. And then they fuck in the ocean. In the ocean.
No.
In it. No. And then they take it to the beach. And I'm like, no, you have sand in places you shouldn't have sand. And you have sand in places that you shouldn't have sand. And you're sticking fingers that are unlubed up her ass. Like, all of it was just, it was too no for me. I couldn't get past it. The next book that I finished was Real. I listened to this as an audiobook by Kennedy Ryan. Another 5 stars. Like, even though I only read 3 books that week, it was like Abducted and Real, 2 5 stars. It is by Kennedy Ryan. It is a 2 on the spice scale for me, just because there's so much plot that it just wasn't a huge percentage of the book, even though there was spice and it's spiced.
Yeah.
It's spiced. Like, Neva and Cannon are the 2 main characters, and these audiobook narrators were so incredible that I didn't even bat an eye about the fact that it was dual. It was not duet, it was dual. And they were so phenomenal that I was like,
wow,
just bring it. It was so good. There technically was a 3rd narrator who narrated scenes from the movie they're working on. But again, like, didn't bat an eye because whatever. This is MF, it's Black love, workplace, forbidden romance, age gap, health scare, and their relationship is director-actor, so kind of like boss-employee.
Boss-employee,
Neva is an actress, and she's kind of discovered and then hired by Cannon, who is directing this bioepic of this jazz singer who is now in obscurity but really shouldn't be. Huge film, huge production, and they don't want to get involved, but they kind of do. They just fall that hard.
Yeah.
And Kennedy Ryan, if you read Before I Let Go and was like, I can't handle the emotional agony, there isn't that. Their relationship is not emotional agony. There's a lot of shit around them, but
Okay.
they are incredible, and they are like loving and caring. Neva has this horrible health scare. She has lupus, and she gets a terrible flare in the
Oh
midst of
God.
shooting, and it's like it's real bad. So that's triggering for you. Please be aware of the fact that there's a lot of health stuff. There's no misleading by a doctor. There's no gaslighting by a medical professional like there was
Okay.
in A Love Like the Sun. She is fully taken care of by her medical team, but
Good.
it gets real serious. And
Yeah.
so I listened to 2 audiobooks in a row after
Okay.
this. Oh my God, I don't have notes for this one, but I know what it is. So this is book 15. It's Pole Position by Rebecca J. Caffrey, and new to me author. I have it as a 2 on the spice scale. It is an F1MM romance. It's Kian and Harper, Loathe to Love. Kian is an established F1 driver. He's been world champion 4 or 5 times. He has like on the team, there are 2 primary drivers, and the other driver breaks his leg and is out for the season. And so they bring up Harper from like the lower league, and Kian loathes Harper because Harper's a bit of a fuckboy, and Kian's dad was a fuckboy driver and like cheated on his mom, drank too much, ended up getting fired because he was still intoxicated for a race day once, and like they fired him because of course you do.
Of course,
And
that's
so
what you
like
do.
his dad is just like no bueno, and Harper doesn't know this and is a fuckboy and parties and blah, blah, blah. And Harper's openly gay. Kian is out to himself and people around him as bisexual, but it is very private, so nobody really knows. And then they eventually like get to know each other and start working together, and one thing leads to another. And so they've got this kind of like secret relationship going, but they just make each other better. I really like them. Harper is definitely a fuckboy. He was in the foster system. He has a lot of abandonment issues. He's just not emotionally available. And so for Kian, he's like, I'm ready. But every time I feel like it's pulling teeth, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and I can't handle it. And so like there's that will they, won't they of it, but they like each other, they balance each other out, they're super supportive, there's a lot of kindness and like excitement of F1, and there's side family stuff from Kian which brings them together, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was like really it was a light fluffy rom-com, even though there is the death of a parent in there.
Oh gosh.
It's okay. Like someone had a long, healthy life and their life ended with a disease that we knew it was going to end with.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it wasn't like someone got murdered or anything like that. It was kind of expected, but I really enjoyed it. It's the first book I've read by this author and I listened to it. So I'm gonna check it out. I think I'm kind of in my F1 era. Devin St. Clair has an F1 Omegaverse coming out in March. I'm
that's
so
right.
excited for it. I
Yes.
know. So I think I'm just in my F1 era. The next audiobook, I was so disappointed by.
Oh no.
I know you're gonna, I don't know what's happening to me, but it's called Forged in Blood. It's by Sadie Kincaid, who I like.
Yeah.
It's a fucking vampire romance. Another vampire romance. Let me down. It is like a poly situation. It's a 2.5 on the spice scale. There are 5 people involved, but like the one girl is Ophelia. Terrible name. Don't name your kid Ophelia. Don't do it. Just don't. And then there are the 3 like boys, even though they've all been around for hundreds of years. Malachi, Xavier, and Axel. And then the professor who's been around for thousands of years, Alexandros. And this was a full cast narration, and it couldn't save it. And they have all these nicknames for her, like Cupcake and Pyro and Princess, the boys do. But also, like, the boyfriends are supposed to also be boyfriends, but we only get like a little bit of that. I'm like, I don't. No, I want you to be boyfriends with her.
I
I'm
want to
talking about the
see the
boys, not
boyfriend
Alexandros.
things.
I want the boyfriends to be more boyfriendy.
Yeah.
So it's PNR. Ophelia seems to be this like secret thing called an elemental, which everybody thought was wiped out, but she seems to be like a really powerful one, but someone's bound her magic. But she's been in the fosters. It's like also a bully romance. So she shows up at this college that she's basically forced to go to because a secret trust shows up and is like, we'll pay for college if you go here and only here. And then like the boys are there, but they're kind of mean to her, except for Malachi. But like only one of you being nice doesn't justify it. So she's got these like weird secret powers, and like, you know, the earth shakes when she comes and it's rains when she's sad. Obviously there's an age gap. She's a fucking virgin. Just don't look, I didn't like it.
I have issues with bully romance anyways. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
Because I think part of it is because it perpetuates the idea in our culture that like, oh, he's mean to you because he likes you. I hate that. Like I hate it.
It isn't even like I'm keeping you at bay to protect you. No, they're just kind of assholes. I don't like it. And like they bully her, and then her high school bully is there. It's just like all of it is shitty. And it's a trilogy. The second book is out. The third book comes out soon. I'm like, I don't care. People are obsessed. I'm like, I don't even like this. I just liked none of it. So that was just so disappointing. So I was like, you know what? I want something that I think I will really love. And so I got Drown Me with Dreams, which is the second and final book in the duology with Gabby Burton. Sing Me to Sleep was book 1. This is book 2. So the end of book 1, there's this crazy things are revealed. She's revealed. The machinations of the secret resistance are come to life. What's going on? What's happening? And this kingdom is encased in a barrier. The royal family's life force is tied to this barrier that keeps everybody out and keeps them in. And so the second book is what's on the other side of the barrier? Do we want the barrier to come down?
Okay.
And so it turns out you can cross the barrier, and Sorsha is sent over the barrier to try and like figure out what the deal is on the other side, because there have been so many lies and so much betrayal. They just need to figure out like what's real and what's not. And it is so sweet. I love her and I love Hayes, and they make me so fucking happy. It is still zero spice because it is YA. There's like some making out, but there's no spice. And I love them. And like there's nothing, there really isn't anything like YA yearning. And these are like true. 18, 19-year-old people, but like there's nothing like that yearning that a YA can bring you, where you're like, oh, in my like deepest of guts, like, oh my God. Like I love it. And it was done so well. Like Gabby did a great job.
I feel like it's the teenager of it all, you know, because you remember when you were a teenager, like you had everything was extra dramatic.
So my voice sounds the way that it does because I had a college reunion over the weekend, like a multi-day thing.
Oh, wow.
And I know. And I was talking to some people and they were like, oh, and they mentioned, you know, the college romance drama and people and stuff. And they were like, did you date that person? I was like, oh, honey, did a fiery inferno similar to the Hindenburg happen? Yes, it did. Book number 18 was an audiobook, Heartless Hunter, because I knew I needed to read it, and I knew that I had like enough shit to do running errands that I would be able to listen to it faster than read it. It is by Kristen Ciccarelli, and I knew that I had to read it because, not had to, but I wanted to read it because I got to see her at an event for the second book in this duology, which just came out. It's Rebel Witch. It's very well received, but finished it. I loved this. This was like a 1 on the spice scale. It's like new adult-ish. So it kind of is like not at Belladonna where like there's sex implied on page, but it's like the language you're using could be a clit or it could not be a clit. Like you could make an argument for someone to be like, this is too explicit. And you're like, show me the explicit words. But it is fantasy. It's witches. It's hidden identity, loath to love, and like a bit of friends to lovers. There's a plot twist and it ends on a cliffhanger. And I loved it. It is, so there's this, it takes place in this one city, but in this, on an island. It takes place on an island. It used to be run by witches, and only women are witches. It's never explicitly stated, but all witches are women. Okay. And the magic they use is blood magic. And they can either use their own blood, they can take blood from someone who's willing, it's like given, or they can take blood from someone who's not willingly giving it. And it will create different levels of, you can use it for different levels of magical spells to fuel the spells. But any mark made and having the blood from the mark used for a spell turns the scar silvery. So in the time of witches, they would, make their scars into beautiful patterns like you do with a tattoo. And they were, always displayed as like, here's my power. And then there was a rebellion against the 3 witch queens. And now witches are purged. They're murdered. Like every single person who's a witch is murdered. If you find out you're a witch, you're murdered. And you don't find out you're a witch until your first menstrual cycle. And you only know you're a witch because your menstrual cycle is black. Your first one, not any other one, but your first one is black. And that's how you know you're a witch. So
which makes sense since they use blood magic. So
yes. So Rune is our FMC, and she was the adopted daughter of a witch. And they were trying to escape during the revolution, and they're tipped off that every avenue of escape is blocked to them. And so what her grandmother does is say, I need you to turn me in. I need you to turn me in. We're going to get caught anyway, but if you turn me in, they won't kill you, because she was young and she hadn't bled, and so she wasn't a witch. And so the new world sees her as like someone so devoted to the new republic or whatever it's called that she turned in her own grandmother, even though like it was the worst thing she's ever done in her fucking life.
Right.
And then she bled, and it turns out she's a witch. And so she's devoted her life to finding witches and helping them escape the island. But in like the real world, she's this like super ridiculous debutante heiress who's like, oh, party dresses and gowns, and look at my slippers, and just like total frou-frou. And her best friend is named Alex, and Alex's brother is a witch hunter. And the only thing I'll say is like, y'all, you put suspicion on her real fast, real hard. Like, wouldn't we have taken a moment? But the witch hunter Gideon discovers that like witches escaped on one of her merchant shipping vessels, and immediately is like, what if she's the Crimson Moth? And I'm like, that is a really like big argument to make. Like, I don't love how you got there so fast. Right. But then there's this will they, won't they, because she's trying to get information on a witch that they have in custody, and he's trying to figure out if she's the Crimson Moth. So they're playing this game of cat and mouse with each other. Book number 19, Misadventures of a Curvy Girl. This is by Sierra Simone. Haley from my Sierra Simone book club, New Camelot series, mentioned this one, so I grabbed it. It is an MMF, and it is a novella. Like, it's less than 300 pages, or a short story. Someone said, I think of short stories as shorter than novellas, but I saw somewhere that like it's not considered that. And I'm like, too bad. I consider this a novella. So it's Ireland, Caleb, and Ben. And this book is really like a celebration of plus-sizedness. It's really it's Sierra Simone, so it's a 3 on the spice scale. Let's just put that out there. Ooh. And as I said, it is MMF. So Ireland is a photographer. She works for a marketing company. She's been sent out into like the farmlands of Nebraska because her company got a contract to do like Nebraska tourism, and she's going to photograph shit. She gets stuck in the mud on the way to the farm, and Caleb, who's the farmer, like shows up to save her, and he's like, wow, can't believe she's standing me up. Oh no, she's probably stuck in the mud. So she's stuck in the mud, saves her, and he's like, but I love you. Like insta love. He's like, you're everything that I've ever fucking wanted. You're exactly my type, and I love you, and marry me. I'm gonna marry you. Like instantly, golden retriever, sweet, sweet boy. And what we learn very early, like he's like, oh, well, you come with me in my truck. We're going to leave your car here, but I got to go check on my elderly neighbors to make sure they're okay because there's a storm a-coming. Yeah. And so while they're dropping things off at one of the elderly neighbors, the woman's like, oh, so good. You're going to be so good for him and Ben. And we're like, no, Ben is like his roommate, but also his boyfriend. They've been childhood best friends, and they really like, they know that they need a woman, but like they're also boyfriends and live together. But like, I wanted the boyfriends to like really be boyfriends. They imply that like they're together, even they imply that when there isn't a woman, they're still, you know, together and they have like a date night and they fuck each other, but like not once. Okay, in Forged in Blood, we do see like there's like one scene where a boy's getting kind of fucked, and then there's another scene where they're starting to get fucked, and then they run away to like go find her. And I'm like, no. What I want is even when you're all together, I want to see a boy sucking another boy's dick. Like I want all together. Just because there's a vagina doesn't mean you don't want the dick. Like that's what I want from these polycules if they're also going to be boyfriends.
Yes.
So that's my frustration. Like there is a moment in the garage where, so it's like so Ireland goes back to Caleb's house and is going to stay with him because there's a storm a-brewing and her car's stuck. And she goes out and looks for him and is like, oh, I want to talk to you before your roommate gets home, and finds him in the barn, not the garage, the barn, jerking off because he just can't keep it in his pants anymore. He likes her too much. And then Ben walks in, and Ben like talks him through his jerk off session. And he's like, yeah, are you thinking about the girl? You want to come all over her tits and her face and her everything? And like, it's really fucking hot. But does Ben touch Caleb? No. Does Caleb touch Ben? No. Is it, I can't wait to fuck you while you're fucking her? No. This is my only complaint. Which was so different than Shattered Innocence, which was the last novella. It is a novella. So this is Shattered Innocence by Sarah Kate. It is from the Black Romance Auction series. And it was a 3.5 on the spice scale for me.
Ooh.
It's inspired by Cinderella. It's so great. So Birdie is Cinderella, Violet is a stepsister, and Alaric is probably Prince Charming, but a prince he is not. It's all morally gray, like this morally gray world. Yes. Alaric is an assassin. He and Violet had a history. Birdie is trying to escape her stepmother, who has frozen her trust and doesn't, you know, let her out and uses her as a servant and is physically abusive. And Birdie, in order to get out, has said, I will agree for you to sell my virginity and hand in marriage at the Black Rose auction because it gets me out away from you. Yeah. But Birdie and Violet are actually in love. And so Violet's like, I'm going to figure out a way for you to get free. I'm going to figure out a way for us to get away together. And she goes to Alaric, her previous lover, is like, I need you to bid and win Birdie's hand. Aww. And so he does. And it turns out part of the contract was that stepmom has to watch her lose her virginity to him. There's like so much creepy. But so much creepy. But the two of them end up having this like beautiful connection, and he's so kind and he's so sweet, and which is not something that he thought he could be to Birdie either. And she's like, Jesus, I'm in love with my stepsister, but I love you. Like this was a connection I wasn't expecting. And Violet and Alaric still have that connection, and so they all end up together. Aww. But so like, there's a touch her and die moment. There's like a lot of, and everybody's fucking everyone. So like, good job, Sarah Kate, because everyone's getting busy in all sorts of different combinations. And that's what I want. So that's how I ended my February, with a lovely FFM novella, spicy as shit. What do you think, Seffi? What are you thinking?
There's so many on this list that I'm like, I need to add it to my ever-growing TBR, because
I know.
the magic, I
just read the next, because I haven't finished 4 books in 3 days. What are you talking about? But I did read the next novella in the Kate Daniels series.
Yeah, I need to read the Kate Daniels series. I need to read the I Got Abducted by Aliens and Got Trapped in a Rom-Com.
So good.
I need to read her. I need to.
She's so wonderful. Like, I love her so much as an author and like as a person whenever I've met her.
Yeah.
I was just listening to the bonus episode from February, if you're a member, that either went up earlier this week, but I like every time she spoke at a panel, and she was only on one panel with a question that y'all will hear, but like every time she spoke, I was just like, please, thank you. Please and thank you. I love you so much. It was just so great. But this next month is going to be interesting. For my plans for March I have a ton of arcs. I'm so grateful. I'm so lucky.
That's awesome.
I know I've already read 2 of them. And so I'm going to really have like a lot of fun stuff for you. Follow along on my Instagram specifically, because I have 5 arcs that I will have read for this month. No, 6? 6?
Wow.
6 arcs, 5 or 6. And so I'll be posting those arc reviews on the days that those books go live. I'm just so excited for everything that's coming in this month. I just feel kind of hopeful. I feel like I ended February with books that were good, even though I had all of this weird shit in the middle, and I feel really positive about March. So follow along, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. Bye, y'all. Jace Reads Romance is a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Produced by Seffi, edited by Michael Achenbach. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. For show notes and more, head to www.jacereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow us on socials at Jace Reads Romance everywhere. For more exclusive content, visit us on Substack, where you'll find extended episodes, bonus episodes, and more. Have a question, story, or a book recommendation you know I'll love? Email Jace at jacereadsromance.com or call and leave a voicemail at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And as always, this is Jace, holding space for you.